Hello and welcome to Issues of the Moment. The Nigeria Sustainable Cooling Project is the flagship of the Scaling Up Energy Efficiency and Climate-Friendly Cooling in Nigeria's NDC Revision Project. This is an initiative which aims to revolutionize Nigeria's cooling landscape by accelerating the adoption of energy-efficient practices and fostering a more environmentally conscious approach to cooling solutions. Funded by the Clean Cooling Collaborative, CCC, the three-year project, which runs from 2022 to 2024, is domiciled and being implemented by the Energy Commission of Nigeria, in line with its mandate with technical support from the United Nations Environment Programme and United for Efficiency. Today on Issues of the Moment, our focus turns to the acceleration of transition to energy efficient and climate friendly low global warming potential GWP refrigerants, air conditioners in Nigeria. My name is Justin Bemuyi and I welcome you to the program. Once again, I thank you so much for joining us on the program Issues of the Moment. Today we've turned our focus on Nigeria's energy sufficient cooling systems transition and regulation. And my guest on the program today is Mr. ETIOSA UYIGUE. He is the National Coordinator of the Nigeria Sustainable Cooling Project. Well, thank you so much for finding our time to come on the program today. You're very much welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes.
It's Nigeria's energy sufficient cooling systems transition and regulation. That's our focus today. But before we delve into this particular matter, let's talk about climate change. How can you describe climate change? What is climate change to an ordinary man, out there? How would you say climate change directly affects him or her?
Yeah, thank you so much. Climate change, simply from the name, means the change in the weather pattern. We notice that over the years, the weather pattern has been changing in different parts of the world. And of course, you know the implication of that. For example, for us in Nigeria, we practice rain-fed agriculture. So we rely on the timing of the rain. But when there's a change in this pattern, it can affect our agricultural produce. Yeah, the question is, what is actually this climate change? What is the causes of this climate change? I'll quickly go into that. First, we explain this. I'll give a simple analogy, a simple illustration. Ordinarily, the rays of the sun, they are supposed to pass through the atmosphere without actually heating up the atmosphere. For example, if you take a transparent object, you place it under the sun and allow the sun to pass through it, and you take maybe a dark object or a black object that stops the rays of the sun, you will notice that the dark object will be hotter than the transparent object. So the implication of that is that when you intersect the rays of the sun, heat is released. Because change in temperature is actually the major cause of climate change. It's what we call global warming. The global temperature is increasing, and it's it's causing an imbalance in the system, the global system. So the cause of that is that man's activity, which of course we are industrialization, we are emitting a lot of gases into the atmosphere. And the chief of these gases is carbon dioxide or carbon dioxide. Okay. Anytime we generate energy, we drive our cars, industrialization, we are emitting these gases, and the concentration of these gases is increasing. And these gases, they are intercepting the rays of the sun, in the atmosphere, and they are generating heat. So it's causing the increase in temperature of the lower atmosphere. And again, too, some of the heat that are supposed to be, let me use the word, reflected back into the atmosphere. These gases, because of their presence in the atmosphere, they are also stopping this reflection of this rays. So the global temperature is on the increase, and it's causing a lot of imbalance in the global. You know, temperature is one that actually controls the global system. Anytime you see the movement of wind, it's controlled by temperature, because when the temperature of a particular place is high, the air molecules, they will move from that place. It excites the air molecules there, and they move. So temperature determines the movement of the wind and the speed of the wind. Even the rainfall, you understand the rainfall pattern, when there's over precipitation, over evaporation, can lead to over precipitation. So have flash floods, you know, rain falling for a very short time, but quite high, quite a large quantity. So all these changes in temperature is affecting the climate to change. So the pattern of it is affecting the pattern of the climate. It doesn't come before we can predict the rain. When the rain comes, we can predict when the rain goes. So farmers rely on that. But because of this imbalance, it's causing this climate to change over time. So this is one of the major causes of climate change.
Now, you've said, you rightly pointed out that man's activities,
yes,
majorly the reason for this climate change. Can you point out major contributors to climate change, please?
Yeah, it's been found that energy generation alone contributes over 60% of CO2 emission into the atmosphere. For example, in Nigeria, our electricity, let's look at our electricity in Nigeria. Over 80% of them come from the thermal plants. And in thermal plants, we are relying on gas. We're using gas to generate electricity. And anytime you burn gas, you're emitting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Even, let's also come to our, many Nigerians have, they have self-generate, they self-generate electricity, generation set to do that. So anytime you do that, you are emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. Then you drive cars, we have millions of cars in Nigeria. You know, anytime we drive these cars on a daily basis, we're also emitting this carbon dioxide. Then let's also look at industrialization. You know, a lot of companies rely on one fossil fuel or the other, either gas or diesel, to run their generator, to run their plants. Yes, every time they do that, they're also emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. So man's activity is the major cause of this emission of these gases, which is leading to the change in the climate.
So you mentioned energy efficiency.
Yes.
Where does this come in here? What is energy efficiency? Let's understand this before we go into the project that you are really taking care of. What do we mean by energy efficiency as it applies to this climate change?
Yes, energy efficiency simply means trying to use less energy to provide services without affecting the quality of that service. I'll give you a very simple example. You know, we used to have this incandescent bulb, these yellow bulbs. I mean, it's what yellow bulbs. People will understand that better than incandescent bulbs. Usually it's very hot. Sometimes some of them go for 100 watts, some go for 200 watts, some 60 watts. But today, with improvement in technology, we have electric bulbs now, sometimes 10 watts, 5 watts. They will give you even better services with less energy than the 60 watt or 100 watts that we used to have. Now, let's look at that. Let's assume in Nigeria, 1 million people replace their 100 watt incandescent bulb with a 10 watt, maybe LED, light emitting diode bulb, LED bulbs. Each of them will be saving 90 watts. Now, if you multiply that by 1 million, that's 90 million. That's 90 megawatts. So by simply changing behavior, you can reduce a lot of energy. You can reduce a lot of energy, or reduce the peak, energy peak, by just simply behavior up to about 90 megawatts of electricity. So that's what one of the campaigns we are trying to do. That yes, we can spend less. You know, yes, we know that what we are generating in Nigeria is not sufficient for everybody. But if we also imbibe the culture of energy efficiency, I think more people will have access have access to electricity. So that is just a simple way to explain the energy efficiency to people.
Wow. Now let's look at your project. Now that we understand what energy efficiency is and how it's important to curb climate change, you know, your project, scaling up energy efficient and climate friendly cooling in Nigeria, how is it helping the country reduce the negative impact of climate change? Okay. How does this come in?
Thank you so much. Yes, cooling, there was a study that was done by the Energy Commission. It was published in 2014. That study was conducted, we collected data all across the geopolitical zones of Nigeria. It was real-time data. You know, we use what we call logger device, watt meters to collect energy. We plug it to your equipment and we take the reading of that equipment, the energy consumption, for about 30 days. Now, one of the findings of that study was that about 40% of electricity in households, consumption in households, is consumed by the cooling appliances. What I make cooling right now, I'm talking about air conditioners and refrigerators. Then a similar study was done in 2015, but this time in public buildings, in government buildings. And one of the findings of that is that over 60% of the electricity consumption in public buildings are consumed by air conditioners. So cooling consumes a lot from our electricity on daily basis of our electricity, both in the residential and the public building. So if we're able to achieve savings from the cooling sector, it is going to have a positive impact on, first of all, on our environment. Like I told you earlier, energy generation is one of the chief culprits, I use the word culprit and quotes, of CO2 emission into the atmosphere. You know, so then secondly, economically, it will save at the individual level. It will save a lot of money for people. Okay. Yeah, a lot of money for people. Then we should also look at it again. If we look at also at the energy sector, our system will be optimized. A lot of our system break down because of overload. You know, a lot of systems from the discos, they break down because of overload. So it also optimize our system. So you can see that it has a lot of positive impact. So where our project comes in, where this project comes in, is that we are saying that we can reduce our energy demand by simply imbibing or adopting the use of energy efficient cooling appliances. Okay. It could be refrigerators, it could be AC. But our project, our current project, focusing more on air conditioners, how can we reduce cooling from energy demand from air conditioner. So this is where our own project comes. Comes in.
So at what stage are you now in the implementation of this project for Nigeria to key into this energy efficient project?
Yes, you know, the strategy. First of all, let's look at the strategies we are using.
Okay.
Yes. Our first strategy we are using is that we are promoting what we call minimum energy performance standards. First of all, let's look at the market. When the products are not in the market, when inefficient equipment are not in the market, people will not buy them. So we are supporting the government to develop minimum energy performance standards and also support the government to pass it through the national process to become a functional document or a working document, so that the working document becomes operational. So also supporting government to do that, to do that. So that's our first strategy. So once you have the standard will generally phase out the inefficient ones and encourage the efficient ones to come into the market, so that when the products are not in the market, nobody will buy them. So that's the first strategy. Then the second strategy we are using, we have to create a lot of awareness. People don't know. You know, when people go to buy products in the market, sometimes they look at the beauty of the products, they look at the manufacturer, they look at the cost, you know, but not many people seem to look at the energy consumption. And that's very paramount, because the energy consumption will determine how much you are going to spend to maintain that product for the lifespan of that product. For example, if the lifespan of that product is 15 years, you are going to be spending, if it's an inefficient product, you are going to be spending a lot of money to maintain, to pay the bills. That's what I mean, to pay the bills for that product. So not many people look at that. So we also have to educate the people, you know. Then there's also another strategy where we are also pursuing, is the use of energy labels.
Okay.
Products should have a label. The buyer or the end user should have a pre-information, should have information about that product to determine whether he or she will buy the product or not. So labels, all products should have what's called this energy label. It will tell you how efficient that product is. The other information, they give you other information on the product. So that's another strategy we are also trying to adopt. So this is the strategy. First of all, look at the standards, okay, to regulate the market. Then we educate the people. Then fourthly, we have to introduce energy labels so that people will be informed of the energy performance of that product before they buy the product.
With all these phases you've talked about, talking about developing standards, talking about energy levels, labeling, talking about involving importers and general, maybe the marketers and all that, what time frame are you looking at? Is it 5 years to come, 10 years to come, 50 years to come? Yeah. That we're thinking of phasing out these energy consumption cooling systems and embracing what we are talking about, energy efficient cooling system. What time are we looking at for this particular project or this this idea to be materialized?
Yes, when we use the word phase out, yes, it's difficult to say, to give a particular time because it's a process. Okay, for example, we have supported the government to develop these standards. Okay, and the standard is very clear. Once the standard is approved by the government, you have to give the manufacturers sufficient time to adjust because it's a lot of cost for the manufacturers to make changes to their production line. For example, we have to give up to about 2 years for that. So even if the standard is approved today, the enforcement will start in about 2 years' time. Okay. The other reason is that yes, the inefficient ones, in quote, some of them are already in the market. So we also have to give them time. So that's why we use the word phase out. So it's not going to be like an after ban. Okay. So it's like I said, it's a process. So we start with the process. First of all, we develop the standard. We support the government to put to pass the standard through the national process, make it a working document. It's approved by the government. So once it's approved, they have sufficient time to adjust to that. So give and say maybe we can say in the next 2 years we can see these products, many of these products coming in. Yeah.
I understand that the standard organization is also involved in this because we are talking about standards and all that. Now, how is their level of involvement? How would you say, yes, you are not there, but since they are part of the project, what is their level of involvement?
Yes, okay. We are working with 3 strategic partners in this project. Of course, the Energy Commission of Nigeria is coordinating the project. As the coordinating partner, the United Nations Environment Program is providing technical assistance to the project. So other partners we are working with is the Standards Organization of Nigeria. Then, of course, we're also working with the National Ozone Office under the Federal Ministry of Environment. Yes, okay, I will say this. Before the standards were developed, we did what we call a market assessment. Because we have to also be very careful not to set standards that are too high and it will affect the market. Because the higher the efficiency of a product, of course, the more expensive it becomes. So we also have to be careful. We also have to look at issues of affordability. So what we did was to support the Energy Commission of Nigeria. We went to the market through the ECN based on their mandate. We collected a lot of property data, market data from the market. We did all the analysis. So from the analysis, we now came up with the MEX value, that's the minimum energy performance standard values. So that's what we now presented to SON and said, based on the market, what we found in the market, this is where our standards should be in Nigeria. So SON now took up the Standards Organization of Nigeria took up the process, developed the draft standards, passed it to the national process. So we're waiting for the approval. So then, of course, the National Ozone Office, we're also looking at another area, which is the refrigerants. You know, cooling appliances use refrigerants. And some of these refrigerants are ozone depleting substances. They have ozone depleting potentials. Okay, so we're also trying to encourage the government to imbibe or use or introduce refrigerants that are environmentally friendly, the ones that will not deplete the ozone layer, and also the ones that will not have a global warming potentials. So that's why we also have to bring it in the National Ozone Office, because that is their area. So they'll be doing that in Nigeria, trying to face that ODS, ozone depleting substances from the market, and replace them with environmentally friendly refrigerants. So that's why we're also working with the National Ozone Office on this project. Yeah.
Okay, the whole of this project, as you and I know, it's for the people, the Nigerians. It ends up with them. So we cannot say all this without talking about accessibility, affordability, and of course, since they are the end users of this, whatever you do after the whole process, they are the end users, Nigerians. And the question on everybody's lips is, how affordable with these energy efficient cooling systems, the refrigerators, air conditioners, and other stuff? What are the measures put in place by the government to ensure that these products would be affordable and accessible?
Yes, like I said earlier, in setting the standards, we didn't just adopt standards from the developed world.
Okay.
We could have done that. But first of all, what we did, we went to the market. The product we have currently in the market, how efficient are they? So we did all the analysis and said, okay, we now have come to what would I say, a safe zone, in quotes, where our own standards should be.
Okay.
So because we have to, like I said, we have to look at the issue of affordability.
Okay.
The standard that if we are going to do a standard that is if we adopt a European standard, many Nigerians will not be able to pay for it. So we have to be very careful not to make it also so that the cost will not be too high for people to buy. Then the issue of education, we have to educate people. There's what we call the life cycle cost analysis. The life cycle cost of a product is the cost of that product and the cost of maintaining that product within the lifespan of that product. For example, if a refrigerator is going to last for, let me use an air conditioner, it's going to last for, let's say 10 years. That's the lifespan of that air conditioner. Now the life cycle cost is the cost of buying that air conditioner when you are purchasing it, and the cost of servicing or running it over the life. What I mean running it, what you pay the utilities to run it for 10 years. Now, if you did this life cycle cost of an inefficient product, you will notice that the initial cost of procuring that product is low, but you are going to spend a lot of money to services within the lifespan, 10 years. But if you buy an efficient product, the upfront cost will be high, slightly higher than that of the inefficient one. But the cost of maintaining it for the 10 years lifespan, you're going to spend less on that. So you're going to find that the efficient one is far cheaper than the inefficient one when you use the life cycle cost analysis to do your comparison. So we also try to educate our people on this, that buying an inefficient product is not actually cheaper than the efficient one. So these are some of the things we need to educate our people all about.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. ETIOSA UYIGUE. I thank you for your time with us once again, for coming on to throw more light on this issue of energy sufficient cooling systems transition. Thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
This is Issues of the Moment, and our focus today has been on Nigeria's energy sufficient cooling systems transition and regulation. My guest has been the National Coordinator of Nigeria Sustainable Cooling Project, Mr. ETIOSA UYIGUE. And this is where the program ends. I thank you so much for your time with us. My name is Justin Bemuyi, and I say bye for now.